22분입니다. 주문 시청구의 대통령 윤석열을 파면합니다.
This sounds brutal, but South Korea is over. Not in the dramatic, sensational way headlines love, but in the quiet, creeping kind of way that you don't notice until it's too late. The country is facing a full-scale collapse, demographically, economically, socially, and even militarily. And here's the chilling part. It's not coming. It's already here. The numbers are undeniable. The trends irreversible, for now. So here's the real question. What happens when one of the most advanced countries in the world begins to vanish in real time? Stick around, because this story isn't just about South Korea, it's about all of us. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the most critical issues. The real population bomb. Let's start with the basics. For any country to keep its population stable, it needs a fertility rate of about 2.1 children per woman. That's the replacement level, just enough for one generation to replace the next. Back in the 1950s, South Korean women had, on average, 6 children each. Families were large, multi-generational, and everywhere you looked, there were kids playing in the streets. Fast forward to today, and that number has collapsed to just 0.72. In Seoul, the capital and largest city, it's even more shocking. Only 0.55 children per woman. That's not just low. That's the lowest fertility rate in the entire world. No other country has ever seen numbers this extreme. And what does that actually mean in real terms? Here's a simple way to look at it. If you start with 100 people today, in just 4 generations, that number shrinks to 36, then 13, then 5. You don't need a math degree to see where that's headed. This isn't a gentle decline, it's a free fall. It's extinction math. Already the imbalance is visible. For every newborn baby, there are 4 elderly people. Think about that. One child being raised while 4 seniors need care, that's not sustainable for any society. The problem isn't waiting around the corner, it's already knocking at the door. And the worst part, no one knows how to stop it. Welcome to 2060. Let's fast forward to the year 2060. Based on the UN's low-end projections, South Korea's population will shrink by 30%. That's over 16 million people just gone. Not relocated, not emigrated, simply missing from the national headcount. And it's not just about fewer people, it's who is missing that matters. Half the entire population will be over 65. Less than 10% will be under the age of 25. That means an entire generation of children, students, young workers, and new parents will barely exist. Imagine waking up in a country where you don't hear children laughing, where the energy of youth has evaporated, and where the default setting is silence. It won't just be rural towns feeling the pressure. Entire school districts will disappear. Small businesses that rely on families, like daycares, cafes, toy stores, will vanish. The economy will contract inward, not just because of lost labor, but because demand itself will dry up. There's no one left to buy, to build, to dream. This isn't just an aging nation. It's a society that's collapsing from the inside out. It's not growing older gracefully, it's hollowing out. And that emptiness, it spreads faster than anyone expects. Economic freefall. Here's the scary part. Even though South Korea looks rich today, the cliff is coming fast. All the glossy buildings, the global brands, the tech success, it hides a time bomb ticking underneath. The pension system, it holds around $730 billion now. But as the population ages and the number of retirees explodes, that money drains rapidly. By the 2050s, it's projected to run dry. And then what? Who pays for the millions who can no longer work? By 2060, there will be less than 1 working-age person for every retiree. That flips the very foundation of how a modern economy functions. Fewer taxpayers, fewer consumers, and skyrocketing costs for healthcare and social services. Governments will be forced to slash budgets. And in a nation built on high-speed growth, that kind of austerity won't just hurt, it'll shock the system. GDP, it'll likely peak sometime in the 2040s, and then begin a slow, permanent decline. Not a temporary dip, not a correction. A downward trend with no end in sight. South Korea's economic miracle doesn't just pause, it unravels. As smaller towns die out, the population will concentrate into a few overcrowded megacities. But even there, things won't feel vibrant. Young minds, the lifeblood of innovation, will be rare. Startups will struggle to find talent. Research and creativity will fade. The country that once led the world in tech and culture will lose its edge. And public services? With fewer people funding them, they'll be cut to the bone. Infrastructure will decay, education, transport, healthcare, all stripped down to bare survival levels. South Korea keep growing? Can South Korea even sustain what it already built? Cultural and societal collapse. Loneliness will become the norm. By 2060, half of all elderly Koreans will have no siblings. A third will have no children. The traditional family structure that once held communities together? It's breaking apart. There will be no one to visit, no one to call, no one to grieve when someone passes away. Aging won't just mean getting older, it will mean growing invisible. And what about the youth? Only 5% of the entire population will be between 25 and 35 years old. That's the age group that fuels everything. New ideas, new families, new businesses. They're the ones who build the future. Without them, nothing moves forward. The K-pop idols, the viral dramas, the global buzz that made South Korea a cultural powerhouse, that energy comes from a generation that's disappearing fast. When the youth disappear, so does the culture. What's left is silence. Schools will close, not because of funding cuts, but because there simply won't be any students. Kindergartens will vanish. Even entire universities, once packed with ambitious young minds, will shut their doors forever. And the few young people who do remain, many won't stick around. They'll leave for Seoul in search of opportunity, or for other countries entirely. Why stay in a society where they're outnumbered, overworked, and pressured to carry the burden of a collapsing system? This isn't just demographic decline, it's the slow fading of a nation's spirit. Military and security crisis. Now let's talk defense. South Korea still faces a very real threat from the north. But here's the problem. Its military is shrinking fast. Right now, only about 5% of men are eligible for service, and that number is already barely enough. By 2060, they'll need 15% of all young males just to maintain today's military strength. That's triple the burden on a shrinking pool of recruits. And it's not just manpower. The defense budget will become unaffordable. With fewer workers, fewer taxpayers, and a collapsing pension system, national security will face impossible trade-offs. Do you fund missiles or hospitals, tanks or pensions? This is where demographics become a national security issue. Because when your military is too small and your enemy is still what can it be stopped? Here's the hard truth. Even if every woman in Korea had 3 kids starting today, it wouldn't reverse the collapse in time. Why? Because population isn't a faucet, it's a pipeline. And that pipeline is already nearly empty, with years of declining birth rates that can't be undone overnight. Still, there are glimmers of hope. In 2024, Korea saw its first rise in birth rates in 9 years, a 3% bump. It's a small step, but in this context, it's a sign that things aren't entirely hopeless. But hope alone isn't enough. South Korea needs radical reform. It needs a better work-life balance, not just for women, but for everyone. Housing needs to be affordable again, not just a dream for the few. Education has to be accessible, and the costs of raising children can't feel like a financial burden that crushes families before they even begin. Gender equality isn't just a buzzword, it's a necessity. Families need real support, not just promises, if the country's future is to look anything like its past. In short, South Korea has to become a place where people want to have children again, a place that fosters hope for the next generation. Because without that, the collapse is not just inevitable, it's unstoppable. The bigger picture. But let's zoom out. This isn't just Korea's problem. China's fertility rate, 1.0. Italy, Spain, around 1.2. Even the US and UK hover at 1.6. Run the math, 4 generations of 1.2 fertility? That's an 87% population drop. For decades, we've worried about overpopulation, about the strain of too many people on our resources and ecosystems. But now, the reality is shifting. The 21st century will be defined not by overpopulation, but by underpopulation. A shrinking, aging world where fewer and fewer people are left to sustain economies, innovate, and carry society forward. And here's the kicker. Most countries aren't ready for this reality. They've spent too long focusing on the wrong issue, and now, as the birth rates plummet, they find themselves unprepared for the profound consequences of a declining population. South Korea is just the first domino to fall. But if the rest of the world doesn't take a hard look at this demographic crisis, we might all be facing a future with too few people and too many problems. We have to change the very DNA of our societies. The demographic freight train doesn't stop for anyone, not even South Korea. And if we don't act soon, we may be the last generation to live in a full, thriving world. The clock is ticking and the changes needed are urgent. It's not just about saving one nation, it's about safeguarding our collective future. If this video opened your eyes, even a little, hit that like button. Share it. Start the conversation. Let's make sure we don't ignore the truth until it's too late. And if you want to see more deep dives like this, make sure you subscribe. We've got more coming. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.